Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. This country acquires all of the existing shares of the TGU power plant. Trinidad and Tobago's ease of doing business ranking has improved. And tourism on the sister isle is on the rise. Thank you for joining us. The handing over of the Trinidad Generation Unlimited, better known as TGU power plant, becomes the sixth power generation company in the country. The Ministry of Energy and Energy Affairs held its official opening ceremony after this country acquired all of the existing shares held by foreign companies earlier this year.
Following its commercial commissioning in 2011, the opening of the TGU plant in La Brea signifies a transfer of shares from the AES Corporation of the United States to becoming 100% state-owned. The generation of electricity through this plant is expected to open up the doors for expansion and growth of industry in the southwestern peninsula. The addition of this sixth power plant to the supply comes after 118 years since power was first brought to Trinidad and Tobago. Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine says the addition of this plant on the national grid will benefit this country's power supply as its proximity to the 56-inch cross natural gas pipeline in the Southland adds to its value.
TGU is supplied, as the chairman pointed out, TGU receives its supply of natural gas via the 56-inch cross island pipeline, which originates in Guayari and ends at the Atlantic LNG facility in Point Lisa. So there is a spur line connecting that 56-inch line to this power plant. This places this power plant in a unique position on the natural gas grid as compared to the other four power plants in Trinidad, which are fed from the Point Lisa's component of the natural gas grid, originating from the Phoenix Park valve station.
Through this development of the Brighton port will lend support to industrial activity in the southwestern peninsula. MP for the area Fitzgerald Jeffrey commended Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine for bringing the project to life as adding another milestone achieved by the La Brea community. He also thanked the newly opened state-owned power company for its involvement in areas of development and interest in its constituents.
Every year, TGU is also involved with the NESC Center in Bethany, granting scholarships for people who want to pursue technical vocational training. TGU is also involved in helping in the repairs of schools, not only within the La Brea area, but even outside of the fence line. I don't think there are many corporate citizens that could compete with TGU in this regard.
This new plant, at its peak, can provide 54% of the country's demand for electrical power and utilizes some of the most modern steam turbine technology for generating power. This plant now becomes one of the largest power generation plants in the country. Production capacity is expected to provide support to methanol-producing plants in Point Lisas. Chairman of TGU, David DeAndre, who was also responsible for construction of the Point Lisas Industrial Estate's power plant, explained how this plant differs in energy efficiency and conservation as opposed to other steam turbine power generating plants.
The technology employed in this facility provides one of the most efficient plants of its kind in the world. The heat recovery steam generators effectively utilizes waste heat from the gas turbines to generate steam, which then drives the steam turbines. The energy from the hot exhaust gases have traditionally been wasted by venting them to atmosphere. Compared to the traditional gas turbine or steam turbine power plants, this facility is substantially more efficient. At full load, the TGU plant will save enough natural gas to power a standard methanol plant.
The coming on stream of this new power generation plant is also expected to put Trinidad and Tobago on the map as an ideal location for business. According to Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine, the TGU plant will boost competitiveness in the sector.
We will ensure the competitiveness of the sector through the utilization of open tenders for the production or for the procurement of such services. 3, the maintenance of appropriate levels of redundancies in generation capacity in the country to safeguard the reliability of supply. And 5, all new power plants shall have black start capacity. And that became painfully evident on I think it was Good Friday 2013 when we had the national blackout.
Earlier this year, the Ministry of Energy signed on with world giants Mitsubishi, together with Neil and Marcy, NEC and NGC, for the construction of a dimethyl ether plant, expected to begin construction directly next to TGU plant by June 2014. Kimberly Calawan, News 4.
Trinidad and Tobago's ease of doing business ranking has improved, which means good news for the local economy and for citizens.
The efforts of the government, specifically the Ministries of Finance and the Economy and Trade, Industry and Investment, have been bearing fruit. On Tuesday, Senator the Honorable Vasant Barath announced that Trinidad and Tobago's position on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business 2014 ranking had improved from 69th out of 185 countries last year to its current position of 66th out of 189 countries. The Honourable Minister was speaking on the opening day of the 2-day Export Development Forum themed Export Growth, Maximising Trinidad and Tobago's Potential. The event, hosted by Export TT, seeks to provide best practices, promote discussions on trend and opportunities in the export environment, and address the impact of global trade on local exports. There, Minister Barath urged local manufacturers, potential exporters, and export support agencies to become export competitive by improving standards and processes, expanding production, and tapping into new markets. This, he said, is supported by the overarching goal of the trade policy and strategy, which allows for market expansion and diversification of production, exports, and markets. International keynote speaker Professor Victor Thomas provided an economic review of Trinidad and Tobago's non-energy exports and advised the 130-plus exporters and potential exporters present at the forum to take advantage of the markets where this country has signed bilateral trade agreements, since there are opportunities for growth and expansion. He noted that there is scope for service exports, and this should be more broadly defined to include other services such as medical tourism and dentistry. Among the countries represented at the forum were the Bahamas, Barbados, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Ghana, Guadeloupe, Jamaica, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and Trinidad and Tobago. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
When we come back, tourism on the Sister Isle is on the rise. Stay with us. Tourism on the Sister Isle is on the increase, according to data compiled by the research unit of the Secretary of Tourism and Transportation in the Tobago House of Assembly. There has been a cumulative 3% rise in arrivals over the last year and 9 months.
Tourism has, over the last half-century, proven itself to be the main driver of Tobago's economy, with the industry accounting for 14,000 jobs, or almost 50% of the working population. The Sister Isle is ranked in the top 10 in the Caribbean and the top 15 countries in the world which rely on tourism for its economy to thrive. So it's no surprise that the mood of Tobago tourism officials will be buoyed by the numbers which indicate there has been a steady increase in arrivals to the Sister Isle between 2011 to September 2013. Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary of Tourism and Transportation in the Tobago House of Assembly, Tracy Davidson Celestin, says international arrivals in 2012 went up by 2% from 2011 to 32,895 international arrivals. She adds that arrivals for the first 9 months of 2013 were 23,496 arrivals, an increase of 1.1% over the same period last year. Similarly, domestic arrivals increased from 923,061 in 2011 to 962,883 in 2012. The figures for this year seem to be on track to surpass last year's figure, with the first 9 months of this year recording over 770,000 domestic arrivals. If this figure continues as expected, the domestic arrivals figure for the sister isle may well pass the 1 million mark. International arrivals are also set to increase by approximately 25% as weekly flights to and from Scandinavia are expected to begin next month. The THA is also involved in negotiations with several other airlines to generate additional services. Soon, Trinidadians and Tobagonians will be able to depart the A&R Robinson International Airport and fly to Ireland, Germany, and more U.S. cities, as well as from Tobago to other Caribbean islands. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
5 outstanding faculty members and 1 research center were placed in the spotlight at the 20th installment of the University of the West Indies Vice Chancellor's Awards for Excellence. This ceremony was the first event to be held at the university's newly built Teaching and Learning Center on the Circular Road in St. Augustine.
The University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus celebrated 5 of its outstanding faculty members during this year's installment of UWI's Vice Chancellors for Excellence. Of the 6 awards presented, the St. Augustine campus took 5, taking the total number of those honored from local soil to 101. The Caribbean University celebrated 65 years this year, while the St. Augustine campus commemorated its 53rd Founders' Day earlier this month. In his address, Vice Chancellor E. Nigel Harris noted that an event like this gives university administrators, academic staff and students a reason to press on and perform exceptionally, despite the many challenges faced. He added, "Let us celebrate these individuals who exemplify our ability to triumph over all the odds." Some 300 well-wishers turned out to join the celebrations. Awards were presented to Professor Shivananda Nayak of the Department of Preclinical Sciences at the St. Augustine campus for excellence in teaching. Professor Horace Fletcher, former head of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology and current Dean of the Faculty of Medical Sciences at the UWI Mona campus, and Professor Pathma Nathan Umaharan, head of the COCO Research Center at the UWI St. Augustine campus, were awarded for research accomplishments. 2 awards for all-round performance were presented to Dr. Carl Logie, lecturer at the St. Augustine Campus School of Education and Administrative Director of its Family Development and Children's Research Center, for her service to the university community and public service, and to the Seismic Research Center for research accomplishments and public service. Awardees each received $5,000 as part of their prize, having passed a rigorous assessment process, first at the campus level, then by a university-wide committee for the final selection. Speaking on behalf of awardees, Dr. Carl Logie commented on the level of research conducted by faculty members by stating that within this environment, we, the awardees, have demonstrated that we are not afraid to try new methodologies and new ways of getting the job done. This year's ceremony was the first event to be held at a recently completed Teaching and Learning Center, which was established to enhance the quality of teaching of the university's lecturers, teaching assistants and tutors. Kimberly Ram Kalawan, News 4.
Sport is up right after the break. Stay with us. It's do or die for Laramine as they are set to take on Maloney in Game 2 of the Ministry of National Security's Hoop of Life Community Basketball League. The Southerners lost Game 1, which was contested in Maloney by a score of 86-77. Wayne Cunningham has the details from the match.
Forward Kenyatta Alfred scored 23 points and center Sean Lawrence netted 18 as Maloney Izwi defeated Laramine 86-77 in Game 1 of the Hoop of Life Finals at the Maloney basketball court on Monday night. Laramine, which was beaten by Caledonia in the third-place playoff in the 2012 edition, jumped out to a 21-15 first-quarter lead after Dr. Wendy Kwamina York, the Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, jumped the ball to get the finals going. With the fans on both teams shouting to the top of their voices, the teams traded basket. But it was the visitors who held the advantage 47-43 as guard Adrian Joseph scored 9 of his 23 points in the second quarter. The third period was no different to the second, and when it concluded, the scores were even. 61-61. And in the fourth and deciding session, Laramie failed to protect the basketball as they committed several turnovers, which Maloney used to their advantage, and went on to outscore their opponents 25-16 to lead the three-match series 1-0. For Laramie, which hosts Maloney on Wednesday night at Lucky Street, Laramie, in a critical Game 2 showdown, Joseph got a valuable support from point guard Derek Boxill, who netted 22 points, and Delroy Agard, who scored 12. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
Tuco's Sports and Family Day was well supported and attended this year, with the News 4 team even taking part in the various activities.
The Trinbago Unified Calypsonians organization held its 2013 Sports and Family Day at the NCC Pavilion at the Queen's Park Savannah on Sunday. The event, themed Road March Past to Present, formed part of Tuco's Calypso Month celebrations.
Every time, we want to thank all those who come here to share with us. We want to thank the Ministry of Sport for partnering with us. And most of all, we ask Almighty God to just give this day a beauty, a presence, as we play and share our experience within the spirit of Calypso as we celebrate Calypso History Month. Everybody, play all yourself, enjoy all yourself, and let me just like we self, give thanks.
There were numerous activities that made it a fun-filled day. First on the list was the March Past, better known as the Dance Past, where each of the 5 teams moved off to road marches past and present.
I pray for a day like today, bright and shining, super glory. Everyone with a flag and a smile on their face, Lordy Daddy, of every creed and race. Phenomenal, lovely atmosphere.
Okay.
In the Lord is our shepherd. So
I have you essential. Keep your living vital. If boredom is a threat.
It was then on to the novelty events.
Zone, who is going to win? Who is going to win? Oh boy, North Zone. Kaisoka. Who is going to fill the Jalita bottle first?
There was a game similar to musical chairs, but with a twist.
Musical plate. You must be on a plate. If you are not on a plate, you are out. And you cannot run back.
And some more familiar games such as tug-of-war, all fours, and cricket. GISL TV4 was also present and even enjoyed a game of football.
Your bags, and we are standing by now for the station transfer, which will be followed by the tug-of-war semi-finals between Torrent team, Last Man Standing, and Who Cares?
The Honourable Minister of Community Development showed his support as he took some time to partake in the events. Calypso Month is celebrated every October and recognizes the contributions that were made to the art form of Calypso and the development in Trinidad and Tobago that it inspired. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us. Citizens must adopt a first world mindset and behavior to see Trinidad and Tobago assume what we would call developed country status. This was one of the messages delivered by Dr. Surajratan Rambachan at the Diwali Nagar.
As the Diwali Nagar continued into its sixth night, the Honorable Minister of Works and Infrastructure delivered remarks during the festivities on Tuesday night. The Honorable Surajratan Ramachan called for a collective paradigm shift in the way citizens viewed themselves and their country. He said each individual must take responsibility for his or her actions and a change in behavior must also ensue.
Brothers and sisters, we have this characteristic in our national personality, always to seemingly blame others for our circumstances in life. Even as a country, we are always looking for excuses for where we find ourselves as a nation. We keep describing ourselves as a developing country, as a developing society, when in fact all we have to do is to begin to behave with a developed country consciousness. We must lift ourselves by ourselves. We must not blame others for our circumstances. But then, this requires a higher level of responsibility, not just individually, but collectively.
Dr. Ramachan, first in the scriptures of the Bhagavad Gita, spoke highly and in great depth of the laws of karma. He stressed the importance of one's actions and the consequences of such actions in the future.
The enduring message of the Bhagavad Gita, a message that implores us to do good, to see good and to be good, to engage in right action, always to serve, reminds us that what we are experiencing in our lives today is nothing that was created by others, but created because we made certain choices in the past. And what we will experience in the future are also going to be experienced simply because we are making choices in the present. Essentially, therefore, my question to all of us tonight and myself is, what kind of choices are you making?
Minister Ramachan extended Diwali greetings to the national community and called for a mind shift in the way individuals see themselves in the world. He was later presented with a token of appreciation in the form of a murti of Sri Krishna. He then delved into song as he sang two bhajans before the large crowd at the Diwali Nagar. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you for joining us.